Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to the Honest Fashion Academy. My name is Justice. Thank you, everyone that has subscribed to this channel. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for viewing my videos. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you've not subscribed to this channel, hey, come here. Just a joke. Okay, so do well, consider it, and I'm glad you're going to enjoy it. So in this video, I'm going to be showing us how to draft a notched collar jacket consisting of the lapel and the collar. Okay, so if this is what you would like to see, what you would like to learn, please kindly watch till the end to get the best part of it. Okay, love you. Okay, so mates, this is our jacket class. Now I've already drawn my basic bodies, but I'm going to run through it in case there's any alteration I did. I will need to explain it in such a way that you understand it properly. Now this is the back of my basic bodies. This is the back, and here I have from shoulder line. This is my shoulder line here. Here we have the shoulder line, and we have 3 inches for, okay, here is a borderline. Let me mark it out. From this edge, I have my shoulder line, which is 8 inches, and then I have a 1 inch shoulder drop down, and the length of my armhole, I added half an inch to it because it's a jacket. I need it to be a bit free at the armhole area. And here I have the length of the armhole that will serve as the chest line. Okay, so I have shoulder drop down of 1 inch, shoulder drop down of 1 inch, and for the neck depth I have 3/4 of an inch, that is 0.75. Then I'll connect it to the 3 inches here, just the basic. Okay, so from this shoulder line to here I have my back length, and I'm going to mark it out, my back length, nape to waist. Okay, and then I have half inch on both sides for my dart and connected it to the midpoint of my shoulder. Half inch on both sides for the dart. You can use your nipple to nipple measurement to get your dart line for the back, and then connect it half inch, to the midpoint of my shoulder line. Okay, now for this armhole, locating the midpoint of the armhole, that is half an inch, and I'll connect it on a straight line, then use my armhole curve to connect at this point. This is it. Okay, now at this back tightening, I have 3/4 of an inch from the CV line, 3/4 of an inch down to the midpoint of the chest area, like so. And then I have shoulder to the length of the jacket. The length of the jacket here for the back, I'm using 24.5. That is the whole of this paper. I think I should mark it out too. 24.5. Your length, the length of your jacket can be any length you want. It can be short, it can be longer than this. And then I'll have to come up 2 inches from the hip line. Right, this used to be my hip line before. Okay, you can come up 2 inches from the hip line, and or from this, just make it 2 inches from the hip line. I have my dart point. That is where the dart leg is going to stop. This is it here, but I'm still going to alter this part because I need the hip area to be free for this jacket, because I'm not going to be opening the back. So I'm going, what I did is to connect this dart leg down to where the the length of the jacket stops. And then I'm going to take half an inch or 1 cm. I used 1 cm on both sides. You can use half an inch if 1 cm is difficult. 1 cm on both sides where my jacket length stops, and I'm going to be connecting it. This part of the jacket is coming over to this place 1 cm, and this part of the jacket is going over to this place 1 cm. What that means is I'm going to trace this pattern out because I cannot cut it on this paper the way it is. So we are just drafting it out, and from this dart leg I'm going to extend to this half inch, and from this other dart leg I'm going to be extending to the other 1 cm, like this. It's just like a crossover. You know what I mean by a crossover. So this one is coming this way and this one is going this way. Okay, and this will make the lower part to be free. Your jacket is not supposed to be fitted on the lower part. So we are connecting our dart leg, our dart back tightening to the hip area. Of course, you should know where your hip area is. This is just a basic pattern. The hip area, you are using um 2 inches above the normal hip length which you took from the front area, or you can just measure it directly from the back and get your hip line. The hip line, if you measure it by yourself, the hip line and the front hip line, for the back hip line, the front hip line will not be the same measurement. So wherever it stops, that is your hip line. I extended the length of my jacket above the hip line, but this is also going to fall at the hip line. It's just 24 and a half. For the back, is not supposed to be up to that length, so the front is going to be longer than it anyway. So here I have my waist measurement plus the dart intake, and I'm connecting it to my armhole area. Don't get it twisted. Please watch our video on how to draft a basic pattern. The width of this measurement here is our bust divided by 4. Okay, bust divided by 4, and we're going to connect it to our um, hip divided by 4 also. Please, if you have any question, do well to ask. So men looking at this, you know that this is just a basic pattern. Okay, basic pattern. The only difference here is that at this neckline we have 3/4 of an inch instead of 1 inch, and then at this part I extended it out by 1 cm on both sides, and then the length of my jacket, every other thing remains the same. So we'll go over to the front, which is where we're going to have the men work. The back is just normal. Okay, so mates, welcome to the front part of our jacket. This is the front. Okay, front. We're done with the back. So we are going to be beginning with our basic measurement. From the shoulder point, this is the length of my jacket here. The difference I have between the front and the back is 2 inches. So this is the length of my jacket. This is my shoulder to waistline for the back. I have my shoulder to waistline here. I have my shoulder to bust line here. You're just going to take all of this measurement from your shoulder point, and then I have my chest line, which is the armhole line that I got from the back, that we got from the back. This is where it is. You can label all of this: length, waist, bust, armhole. Okay, you can just label them. Now this is where our CF is. This is our CF. For the front, our shoulder drop down is 1.5 inch to our 3 inches neck width. This is our neckline, our shoulder line, and this is our shoulder measurements. Remember what we took from the back, 8 inches, and we still took the 8 inches here. This is it, and we're going to be covering our armhole, right? Now we're covering our armhole to our bust divided by 4, just the same thing we did at the back. Okay, then we have our neckline. This is just the basic bodice. Please watch the video on how to draft your basic bodice. Once you know how to draft your basic bodice, all of these things will just be so easy for us. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is this. At this point we have our bust divided by 4, and this is it. At the bust point we also have our bust divided by 4, and this is it. Okay, we'll make a connection there. And then at the waistline we have our waist divided by 4. Okay, this is where it is. And then we have our hip divided by 4, and this is where it is. Okay, so the next thing we're to do, which is our bust span, our nipple to nipple measurements, divide by 2, and that gave us um okay, so we're to measure our bust span, and this is where it falls. Measure from your center front to wherever it stops, and we'll make a straight line to that point. From the hip line to the bust line, we'll connect on a straight line. This is it. Now we're going to be having half inch on both sides for our bust, our waist dart, half inch on both sides, and we'll be connecting to our hip line. Connecting to our hip line, that is 2 inches above the hip. 2 inches above the hip. And then we're connecting to the bust point. All right. Now, whatever the difference we have here, which is 1 inch, or that intake, we add it to our waist measurement so that we don't run at a shortage, at a loss. And we connect to the bust and also connect to the hip line. Okay, so this is what we have for the lower part. And then just the same way we did at the back, we're going to be extending this lower part by 1 cm. From the other dart leg we extend by 1 cm, and also extend the other part by 1 cm, because we do not want the lower part to be fitted. We want it to have a breathing space. We want it to have a breathing space, and this is it. So I'm just going to trace this out because I'll not be able to cut it like this. And even if I don't trace it out and cut it normal way, I'll have to add this 1 cm to my measurement if I want to save paper. Okay, so it's right to save paper. So our basic measurement is here, and then the difference between the back length and the front length, which is what we have here. As you can see, this is our front and back. The difference between this length and this is what we're going to be inputting as our bust dart. So from this part, we've measured that difference like this, and then we're going to be connecting it. I hope you're understanding this video. Please, have you subscribed to this channel? If you've not, what are you waiting? So for This dart, want to make an armhole princess dart, and I'm going to locate where I will be connecting my armhole princess dart. I will use my curve to connect it. I don't want it to have so much curve, so I'm just going to make it like it's in form of straight, but not straight, not so much curve. It doesn't have to curve so much. So I'm going to be connecting from the bust point down to where I want the curve to be, the armhole princess dart. And I'm going to be tightening this armhole princess dart by 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Let's use 1.5, and I'm still going to be connecting from this bust point to my tightening. Okay, and then whatever I tightened, I'm going to come out from there 1.5. So I'm going to be marking 1.5 up to this point, and then I'll have to redraw my armhole measurement from this 1.5. So this becomes my new armhole measurements, so that when I hold it, it's going to fit in properly. Then at this point, I'll have to um, curve or make it, smoothen it so that it doesn't have a pointed edge. I'll have to smoothen it from one dart leg to the other dart leg. You'll find out that you have a space here, which really does not matter. If you think it's going to affect you, you can still add it back to the usual measurement. Okay, so this is where we're going to be cutting from. All right, so the next thing we're going to be working on is on the items that makes this a jacket that it is. So what we're going to be doing now is to mark out our button allowance of 1 inch from the CF line. We're making a button allowance of 1 inch. So use your ruler to find 1 inch and mark it on a straight line. You can decide to identify where your break point is going to be first, so that you connect it, the 1 inch, to stop just at that um, break point. Or if you've not, you can take it straight, but I'm going to be connecting it at the break point. That is where the jacket is going to overlap each other. The overlap is going to stop before the button allowance. So I'm making the overlap to be a little above the waistline. Yours can be below the waistline, it can be under the waistline, wherever you want it to be, that is where it should be. So this is 1 inch for our button allowance. Now the next thing, now at this neckline point at the CF, I'm going out by 2 inches. At this point, you are to give it the skyline that you want. I decided to come up by, say, 3/4 or 1 inch from the straight line of the CF neckline. I slanted it up. This should be about 3/4 of an inch if you're taking it from the straight line. I hope you get. Then I'm going to use a very slight curve to connect it to my break point. Remember, I said I came up by half and by 2 inches from CF. So this is what we have as the lapel. This is the lapel. Okay. Now the next thing we're to do is, now we've gotten our lapel. For us to get our collar, what we're going to do is to measure this back neckline, and I've measured it. What I have is 3.5. At this point, like this, we have 3.5. and we are going to have 0.25 or 1.25. Okay, that's one line or two lines from your measuring tape to the 3.5 that I got, and I will use it to extend from my neckline to where it's going to stop. Now before I do that, I'm going to come back from this neck point by 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and I'll blend it into the neckline. Okay, 1/4 of an inch, I blend it into the neckline, and I'm going to come up here by on a straight line. You can do it on a straight line. All you have to do is to mark a dot and then come back from that dot by half an inch. Okay, when you get this line on a straight line, I just use the dot there from this zero 1/4 of an inch that I came back from this neckline. I marked on a straight line what I got from the back, and then from here I came back by 0.5. So I'm going to be connecting, I'm going to find the midpoint from this neck line to where my dot is. I'm finding a midpoint there, right? So I'll connect on a straight line to that midpoint. I'll connect on a straight line to the midpoint, and then from the midpoint I'm going to come back by measure to the half inch that I came back from. You can see that this is the point, the first point, and this is the second point. So I will use my ruler, my curve, to blend it so well so that it doesn't have any show of where it's breaking. I'm going to blend it well. Okay, you can see the way it is. So since we've gotten that, we're going to measure the height of the collar at the back. That is what is going to be here. This is the CV line. The height of the collar, we're going to be measuring 2 3/4 inch. Okay, 2 3/4 of an inch. From this half inch, we're going to be marking 2 3/4 of an inch on a straight line. On a straight line, right? And then we're going to be going up by half an inch. We're going to go up by half an inch. So we are marking this way in a slanted form, half an inch upwards. Okay, so anyhow you want to do it, always know that when you're coming from this part, this area needs to be higher than this part, so that when your collar rolls down, it's not going to be hanging on top. It will relax properly. So we're making progress. And so what we're going to do next is from this lapel area. What you have to do at this point is to come down from this lapel area by 3/4 of an inch, or at most 1 inch. From this point, come down by 3/4 or 1 inch. Then at that point, raise it up by 1 inch or 3/4. Then connect it from this CF point to where your measurement stops. Let me take that again. From here, we're going to go in by 3/4 of an inch or 1 inch. Then at that point, raise your ruler up by 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch. That will give you a guide on how to connect from there to your CF line. And that is what I'm going to connect here, like so. Okay, so the shape around here can be straight, it can be a slight curve. Okay, let's use a very slight curve at that part. A very slight curve. It can be a straight line, it can be a slight curve at that line. So you see what we got there. Is it looking like it? Oh yeah, it is. Very, very, very. Okay, so what next are we supposed to do? Now, what we are supposed to do here is a matter of choice. According to me, it's a matter of choice. So in this color, we have our standing color and our roll color. Okay, the roll color here, we should bear in mind that from this point, it is 1 inch, and you connect on this a little slant form to somewhere around there. Or you can just leave everything the way it is like this and sew your collar the way it is. While folding it over, always know that you're going to fold the standing collar will be around 1 inch, the remaining parts will roll it over. Okay, or you can decide to cut it out and join it, but I'm not going to cut it out, and even if I'm going to cut it out, I don't know yet. It depends on as the spirit leads. Okay, so as it is like this, our jacket is very, 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 very much ready. So we have our collar and we have our lapel. This is just what is known as a notched collar jacket. Okay, is it that simple? Yes, it is that simple. And what we're going to do now is to cut everything out. We are going to close this start since we already have a style line. I will open and close it and it will be inside here. So everything is ready. What I'm going to do next is to cut it out and cut on my fabric. Okay, so I'm going to show you when I transfer it or cut it out to the fabric. Now this point is a matter of choice. I want this jacket to have a curve at the hemline. You can also decide to leave it straight like this. So from this point, I'm going to measure 2 inches inward, and that will guide me on how to curve the jacket. This is not a standard, it's just a personal choice. Okay, so this is how I'm going to curve it. Good. So my jacket now has a style line below, and I'm going to cut it this way. Bear in mind that this thing here is not a standard, it's a matter of choice. This is actually going to widen the neck line a bit. So if you want your jacket to cling very close to your neckline, there's no need going behind it the way I did. I can decide to cut it on this line and connect to this to the upper part. Okay, so mates, so here is all the pieces for the men fabric, both front and back. And here I have the lining. Okay, I got a suit lining. The name of this has just escaped my mind. Just go to any fabric store, ask them for suit lining. You will get something like this. It's very nice. If you're working with a stretchy fabric, then you will have to get a stretchy one for your jacket. Okay, so I ironed stay on all this for the men fabric. I did not iron on the lining. Now remember that the front of the jacket is going to be cut with the men fabric. That is the facing for the men jacket is going to be cut with the men fabric. Okay, this part is going to be cut into two. Um, one for the men fabric which I ironed stay, and another one without um stay for the lining. That will serve as the facing. I think this is it. Yes, to serve as the facing, because once you open your jacket, it is the first thing that will be seen and it shouldn't be lining. Okay, so here I have the collar, right? The collar is cut into four pieces because this is on fold, one and another one for the facing. So I'm going to iron stay on the main fabric. I will not iron on the lining. So it's getting dark here, so tomorrow I'm going to start sewing this, and then tomorrow we're going to cut the two-piece sleeve that I'm going to be using for this jacket, and I'm gonna show you how I'm going to cut the two-piece sleeve. Please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, watch it to the end, share it. Okay, so we are going to continue our video in our next class. All right, see ya. Bye.